Hello and welcome to the second video of Idena Basics. Now that you've found someone to invite you, there are two ways to become invited. The first method, the inviter will send you an activation code after they have checked that you possess a basic understanding of Idena. To successfully accept the invitation, first you need to log in on the Idena web app. Once you have successfully logged in, navigate to My Idena. Then select I have an invitation code. Enter the code provided to you and click Activate Invitation. You will be successfully invited. You can see that your current task has changed from Start Training to Wait for Validation. The second method. The inviter can also directly send you an invitation if they have your Idena address. In that case, once you log in on app.idena.io, the activation button will be prompted and you only need to accept it. After a few seconds, you will see your current task has changed from Accept Invitation to Wait for Validation. Now that you've accepted an invitation, it means that you are eligible to attend your first Idena validation. Idena validations look and work pretty much like the training validation with a few small differences. Number 1, Idena validations take place on-chain. Number 2, validations, currently, happen every 2 weeks at a specific time for the whole world on a Saturday, with a tendency to change. You can always see the exact time in your client when you log into your account. Since validation happens at the same time for everyone in the world, people in different time zones have different clock times displayed. Number 3, one major difference is that during real on-chain validation, you are not required to spend all of your available reports. Flips used for the training belong to a fixed database of flips used solely for practice. Flips used for the on-chain validation are always new, and since the protocol can't know what quality the flips are going to be, we need your help to grade them. So sometimes you might be required to spend all of your reports and sometimes perhaps none. The main thing to remember is to not report good flips. On what is a good flip, please refer to the previous video. The next thing to do is check if you're able to attend the upcoming validation. Try to clear your schedule around the validation time, and if that's not possible, then please let the one who invited you know your problem so they can invite someone else instead. This is important because each invitation is viable for the upcoming validation, and after that they expire, and new ones are generated. The only thing to do before the upcoming validation is to be prepared and wait. A lot of things can go wrong, and that's why you should make sure to follow up on this list of failure prevention checks. 1. Check if your time zone and clock are in sync because there usually is a problem with PCs running Windows. To sync your system time, go to Windows Search. Type Date and Time Settings. Once you open your settings, you can click on the Sync Now option to sync your time successfully. Try to do this once before every validation. 2. Use the web app and select a node close to your location. If your identity status is Candidate, you are assigned to a random location of the node. After passing your first validation, you can and should select another location, preferably a location closer to you. Don't wait for the last day to select the node you will use. Ignore this sentence if this is your first validation. 3. A stable connection is the most important part. LAN cable connection is preferred over Wi-Fi, or Wi-Fi over mobile data. 4. Check in your LAN if other devices are using a bandwidth-intensive task. Just suspend that before and during validation. It usually doesn't take more than 30 minutes. 5. Log in at least 10 minutes before validation time and wait on the Idena web app homepage. Once you log in a few minutes before the validation, you will see a countdown timer page in your browser. Once the timer reaches 0, your validation page will open automatically. Then you can start completing the short, long, and the reporting sessions. Do not refresh or switch to other apps. Also, do not open multiple Idena tabs as it is not allowed, and you will see an error of many tabs. Let's see. Here I am opening the Idena web app. Nothing happens. But if I open the web app in another tab at the same time and I go to the previous tab, I get an error that multiple tabs are active. So, do not try doing these things right before the validation session. Just try to be focused on the validation. Before we move on to the next point, let's look at a quick video on the validation session. Once the timer runs out, the validation starts and you are presented with the short session. Here you have some flips for which you have to select the correct, logical side. You only have 1 minute and 45 seconds to complete this short session. Once you click on Submit, you are presented with the long session. The long session, also known as the qualification session, is similar to the short session. As previously done, you have to select the correct side of the flip in this session as well. The long session shares its time limit of 30 minutes with the next part, that is the reporting session, so you have enough time unlike before. Once you are done with all the flips in this long session, click on Start Checking Keywords button on the bottom right to move on to the reporting session. Here, you have to report the bad flips that break rules. You will see a pop-up with some pointers on how to identify bad flips. Check the flip and the keywords and then decide on the basis of guidelines whether it is a good flip or a bad flip. If it is a bad flip, report and move on to the next one. Reporting flips is optional and you can skip flips if you are unsure. Once you are done, submit your answers and you are done with the validation session. Only thing left is to wait for the results. Now that you understand the flow of the validation session, let's focus back on the failure prevention points. 6. Wait for the flips to load. Don't log out during validation. If the flips are not loading, then nothing can be fixed at that time. Do not try to close the browser tab or refresh your connection. 7. When solving the short session, don't wait for the last moment. Send your answers as soon as possible. Remember, you only have 1 minute and 45 seconds to complete the short session, so try to complete it on time or before. 8. When reporting, you don't need to use all the reports available. Report only the flips that don't follow rules or flips that are impossible to understand. Also, reporting is completely optional. If you're still not sure about it, then it's best to skip it so you don't report flips that are good. The only penalty for not reporting is missing out on potential reporting rewards in Idena tokens. 9. Your validation finishes when you send your answers after the reporting session. The submission is not automatic. That's why you need to press the button that says Submit Answers once you are done. Remember, do not wait until the last moment. Click Submit as soon as you're sure you're done with everything. Keep all these things in mind and keep practicing on training validation to improve your score. If you have any queries, you can join Idena community channels and get help there. All the best for your validation.